Following the death of the Prophet Muhammad, the Rashidun Caliphs sought to extend their control, targeting the Sasanian Empire. Initially led by Caliph Umar and later by his successors, Muslim forces successfully challenged the existing power of the Sassanids, whose empire had been weakened already by years of war with the Byzantines to the north. As a result, Islam spread throughout the Persian territories, leading to the eventual conversion of the populace and the integration of Persian cultural and administrative practices into the new Islamic government. This conquest not only marked the end of the Sasanian Empire, but it also set the stage for the cultural synthesis that would characterize the subsequent Islamic Golden Age. Hello and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, good to meet you. If you're coming back, great to have you back here with me again. As always, if you like what I do, the best way to support the channel is to like and subscribe. Otherwise, if you want to go above and beyond, you will find the appropriate links in the description. Now, without further ado, let's get relaxed. Take it nice and slow. Today's video is all about the Muslim Conquest of Persia. The Euphrates River has historically been a significant demarcation line since the 1st century BC, separating the Roman, later Byzantine, and Parthian, later Sasanian empires. This border was a constant battleground, primarily in the northern hilly regions due to the challenging desert landscape of the south, which served as another natural barrier. Consequently, much of the southern border relied on a network of semi-independent Arab principalities that functioned as buffer states. These principalities allied themselves with the larger empires, Byzantine allied with the Ghassanids, and Persia with the Lakhmids, to fend off attacks from the many nomadic Arab tribes. The Ghassanids and Lakhmids engaged in regular skirmishes that, while largely inconsequential to the Byzantine and Persian empires directly, played a crucial role in maintaining the status quo, if not just by keeping these tribes occupied with fighting each other. They wouldn't unite, surely, and take on the bigger powers if they were that busy. However, during the 6th and 7th centuries, this balance of power started to unravel, and it was due to several factors, weakening both empires and leaving them vulnerable. For the Sassanids, extensive wars with the Byzantines drained resources significantly, leading to increased taxes and widespread economic hardship among the common people, who of course bore the tax burden, yet remained the poorest class. The incessant warfare damaged critical trade routes and industries, further crippling the empire's economy. Additionally, the Sasanian society strictly divided into classes of priests, warriors, secretaries, and commoners, found itself under quite a strain. Administrative systems failed to adapt to the demands of an expanded empire and an increased population, leading to rapid changes in leadership and diminishing central power. This was exacerbated by rising power among local landholders, further destabilizing the empire. Over 14 years, the Sassanid Empire saw 12 successive kings, each equally unable to restore stability or effectively manage the sprawling empire, leading to its gradual decline and of course leaving it open to new forces, such as the emerging Muslim Caliphates, which capitalized on these many internal weaknesses. The frontier between the Byzantine Empire and the Sasanian Empire, traditionally the Euphrates River, was a hotbed of military activity due to its strategic importance. The arid conditions of the Arabian or Syrian desert created the natural buffer in the south, leading both empires to establish alliances with Arab principalities that acted as buffer states. The Byzantines, of course, had the Ghassanids on their sides, and the Sasanians the Lakhmids, both very important. Although these client states often engaged in more fighting each other, and this caused many internal rifts. In the 6th and 7th centuries, however, a series of events began to undermine this long-standing balance. The Byzantine efforts to suppress monophysite Christianity among their Arab allies, the Ghassanids, led to tensions and revolts. Yes, the Ghassanids were Christians, but in the eyes of the Byzantines they were the wrong kind of Christians. Similarly, the Lakhmids rebelled against their Persian control, which culminated in the execution of their king Numan III by the Persian Emperor Khosrau II in the year 602. This political fragmentation weakened the Sasanian Empire's southern defenses, of course making it more vulnerable to external attacks, including the rising threat of Islamic expansion. During the Byzantine-Sasanian War of 602 to 628, Emperor Khosrau II seized the opportunity to expand Persian territories significantly, capturing regions as far west as Egypt and Palestine. This expansion, however, overstretched the empire's resources and administrative capacity. Despite early successes, Byzantine counterattacks led by Emperor Heraclius eventually pushed back the Persians, and by 629, a peace treaty restored the pre-war boundaries. Back to business as usual. Well, it wasn't business as usual for the Sasanians. They faced further destabilization from the plague of Shiro, which struck the region around 627 to 28, contributing significantly to the empire's decline. Following Khosrau II's assassination in 628, the empire experienced rapid changes in leadership, with 10 different rulers ascending the throne in just 4 years, weakening the state's structure and leaving it ripe for the Islamic conquest. The period also saw attempts by Muhammad, the prophet of Islam, to extend his influence through diplomacy. According to Islamic tradition, after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, Muhammad sent letters to the rulers of several regions, including Persia, inviting them to convert to Islam. And I will read one of these letters now. It's one of the ones we have that went out to the Persians. In the name of God, the Beneficent, the Merciful, from Muhammad, the Messenger of God, to the great Kisra of Persia, peace be upon him, who seeks truth and expresses belief in God and his prophet, and testifies that there are no gods but one God whom has no partners, and whom believes that Muhammad is his servant and prophet. Under the command of God, I invite you to him. He has sent me for the guidance of all people, so that I may warn them all of his wrath, and may present the unbelievers with an ultimatum. Embrace Islam so that you may remain safe. And if you refuse to accept Islam, you will be responsible for the sins of the Magi. Pretty scary, huh? Don't want to get that one in the letterbox. Well, the historicity of these letters, especially the one allegedly sent to Khosrau that I just read, has been debated by scholars, given the complexities of the Persian court protocol and the improbability of such a message being personally received by the emperor. Nevertheless, these narratives indicate the proactive measures that Muhammad took to spread Islamic influence during his lifetime, albeit by any means necessary. Well, after the reign of Khosrau II, the empire experienced frequent changes in leadership, contributing to a weakening of the central authority and military. The Persian army, exhausted from continuous warfare with the Byzantines and the Khazar invasion, was further strained by the internal conflicts among the Parthians, who desired greater autonomy. According to the Porshariati, the critical years for the Sasanian decline were not the traditionally cited 632 to 634, but rather 628 to 632, coinciding with the intense internal disputes over succession following Khosrau's death. During this time, the Arab forces began their incursions into Persian territories, initially unopposed significantly by the disorganized Sasanian forces. Yazdegerd III, who ascended to the throne as a child, was unable to reconsolidate the military or governmental structures. When the Arab armies invaded, the Sasanian military, despite its previous might against the Byzantine forces, was completely unprepared for the mobile and versatile Arab tactics. The Persian reliance on heavy cavalry became a disadvantage against the agile Arab forces, equipped for rapid and adaptive warfare. The lack of a strong response to the Arab advances allowed the invaders to fortify their positions within the empire. By the time the Sasanians mounted a significant resistance, it was all too late. The decisive battle at al-Qadisiyah led to further losses, and subsequent defeats, such as the Battle of Nahavand, sealed the fate of the Sasanian Empire, leading to its traditional dissolution date of 651, with the death of Yazdegerd III. Now, in the broader context, the emergence of the Caliphate under Abu Bakr, post-Muhammad's death in 632, saw the rapid expansion of Arab control. The Rida Wars consolidated Arab rule in the Arabian Peninsula, setting the stage for further conquests into former Byzantine and Sasanian territories. Following the Rida Wars, al-Muthanna ibn Haritha, a tribal leader from northeastern Arabia, conducted successful raids into Sasanian territory in Mesopotamia, capturing considerable spoils. His successes prompted him to report back to Caliph Abu Bakr in Medina, leading to his appointment as a commander. Encouraged by al-Muthanna's raids, Abu Bakr considered a larger campaign to expand the Rashidun Caliphate. Abu Bakr assembled a volunteer force, placing his most capable general, Khalid ibn al-Walid, at its head. Khalid, fresh from his victory against the false prophet Musaylima at the Battle of Yamama, I know, funny name, right, was tasked with invading the Sasanian Empire, targeting the city of al-Hira first. In early 633, Khalid departed with 10,000 men, later joined by tribal chiefs and their forces, bringing his total strength to 18,000. Quite a formidable force. Well, upon entering Mesopotamia, Khalid sent ultimatums to the local governors, demanding their conversion to Islam or the payment of tribute. These letters were returned to sender. No response. Well, he then achieved rapid victories in several key battles: the Battle of Chains, the Battle of River, and the Battle of Walaya, where he successfully executed a double envelopment, and the Battle of Ulayis. These victories destabilized the already chaotic Persian court, and it led to the capture of al-Hira. Khalid's campaigns continued with the conquest of cities of al-Anbar and Ain al-Tamir. However, his plans were temporarily interrupted by a call for help from Iyad ibn Ghanem in northern Arabia, who was besieged by the rebel tribes. Khalid swiftly dealt with the rebellion at the Battle of Daumat al-Jandal, and then returned to face a large assembling Persian army. Opting to engage them in smaller groups to avoid unified confrontation, Khalid strategically defeated Persian forces at the battles of Muzaya, Sani, and Zumail. It was these battles that effectively ended Persian dominance in Mesopotamia and left the capital, Ctesiphon, vulnerable. However, before Khalid could launch an assault on Ctesiphon, he was redirected by Abu Bakr to lead the Muslim forces on the Roman front in Syria, marking the end of his successful campaign in Mesopotamia. This shift of focus was pretty important, as it not only secured Islamic control over Mesopotamia, but also positioned the Rashidun Caliphate to expand further into Byzantine territories. Following Abu Bakr's directive, Umar was tasked with continuing the conquest in Syria and Mesopotamia. However, during Abu Bakr's tenure, Khalid ibn al-Walid had been redirected to Syria, and this left Mesopotamia vulnerable. While this allowed the Persians to at least attempt to reclaim their territory, forcing Muslim forces to concentrate defensively along the border. Umar responded by dispatching reinforcements to Mesopotamia under Abu Ubaid al-Thaqafi to support Muthana ibn Haritha. During this period, several key battles took place in the region of Sawad, such as Namarak, Kaskar, and Bakusiatha, where the Arabs managed to maintain their foothold despite pressure from the Persians. However, the Persians did score a significant victory at the Battle of the Bridge, defeating Abu Ubaid. Nevertheless, the Arabs managed a victory at the Battle of Buyab under Muthana's leadership. Amidst these conflicts, Yazdegerd III, the last Sasanian emperor, formed an alliance with the Byzantine Emperor Heraclius by marrying his daughter, or perhaps granddaughter. This alliance aimed at launching a coordinated offensive against the Muslims on two fronts. While Heraclius prepared his forces for a major campaign in the Levant, Yazdgerd mobilized large Persian armies to reclaim Mesopotamia. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Umar planned a fresh campaign back into Mesopotamia and contemplated leading it himself. However, the advisory council in Medina advised against his personal involvement, given the nature of the dual threats. Little too risky. Consequently, Umar appointed Sa'id ibn Abi Waqqas to lead the campaign, despite him suffering from rather severe sciatica. Thus, Sa'id's forces set out from Medina in the May of 636, reaching Qadisiyah in June. As Heraclius launched his offensive in the May of 636, Yazdgerd failed to coordinate effectively, leaving his Byzantine allies unsupported. Meanwhile, Umar reinforced the Muslim army at Yarmouk and ordered Sa'id to initiate peace talks with Yazdgerd to prevent Persian forces from advancing. Despite these efforts, the Byzantine general, Van, under pressure and without awaiting further instructions, prematurely engaged the Muslim forces at the Battle of Yarmouk in the August of 636, and thusly suffered a decisive defeat. Well, with the Byzantine threat effectively neutralized, at least for the moment, the focus shifted back to the Sasanian front, where the Arabs faced a formidable Persian army, complete with war elephants, at the Battle of al-Qadisiyah. Within 3 months, however, Sa'id's forces achieved a historic victory, decisively crushing the Persian military might and effectively ending Sasanian rule west of Persia proper. This victory at al-Qadisiyah marked a pivotal moment in Islamic history, paving the way for further conquests. If they had have lost this battle, well, perhaps there wouldn't be any Islam. Following this, Sa'id and his forces captured major cities such as Babylon, Kutha, Sabat, and Bahurasir. The fall of Ctesiphon in the March of 637 after a 3-month siege marked the demise of the Sassanid capital and a significant milestone in the rapid expansion of the new caliphate. In December of 636, recognizing the strategic importance of controlling the southern route to Ctesiphon, Umar commanded Ghazwan to seize al-Ubula, also known as the port of Apologos, from Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, and also Basra. By April of 637, Utbah successfully captured these regions, effectively isolating the Persian garrison from Ctesiphon. The Persian forces retreated to the Maysan area, which was subsequently captured by the Muslims. Following the fall of Ctesiphon, Umar swiftly dispatched military units westward to secure the Byzantine frontier by capturing the forts at Circesium and Hayat. Meanwhile, substantial Persian military forces remained active to the northeast of Ctesiphon, specifically in Jalalwa, and to the north across the Tigris, in Tikrit and Mosul. The Persian troops regrouped at Jalalwa, a strategically crucial location due to its access routes leading to Mesopotamia, Khorasan, and Azerbaijan. The Persian contingent in Jalalwa was led by Mihran, with Farrukhzad, a brother of Rustam who led at al-Qadisiyah as his deputy. Prioritizing the northern threat, Umar tasked Hashim ibn Utbah with the mission to capture Jalalwa and Abdullah ibn Mut'am with the conquest of Tikrit and Mosul. By the April of 637, Hashim advanced from Ctesiphon with 12,000 troops, securing a decisive victory at Jalalwa. He proceeded to besiege the city for 7 months, culminating in its eventual capture. Concurrently, Abdullah ibn Mut'am took Tikrit with assistance from the local Christians, following a tough battle, and then moved to Mosul, which capitulated under the condition of paying jizya. That is the tax imposed on non-Muslims, by the way. With these victories, the Muslims had effectively gained complete control over Mesopotamia, not to mention the smaller pockets of resistance, but really there was no structure left to put up a fight. Following up on these successes, a Muslim force led by Karkar pursued the retreating Persian forces to Kanikin, located around 25 kilometers from Jalalwa on the route to Iran, where Mihran was still in command. Karkar defeated the Persian forces in the Battle of Kanikin and subsequently took control of the city. The remnants of the Persian forces withdrew further to Hulwan. Undeterred, Karkar continued the offensive, laying siege to Hulwan, which fell to the Muslims in January of 638, marking yet another strategic gain in the region. Now, Karkar had asked permission to operate deeper into Persia, continue the campaign, but Umar actually rejected him, did not give him permission. Writing thusly, and we have the primary source: I wish that between the Suad and the Persian hills there were walls which would prevent them from getting to us, and prevent us from getting to them. The fertile Suad is sufficient for us, and I prefer the safety of the Muslims to the spoils of war. In February of 638, a temporary calm had settled on the Persian front. The Suad, Tigris, and Euphrates valleys were securely under Muslim control. The Persian forces had retreated eastward beyond the Zagros Mountains into what is considered Persia proper. They continued to raid Mesopotamia, which remained politically unstable, signaling that the Zagros Mountains had become the de facto boundary between the Rashidun Caliphate and the Sassanids. In the latter half of 638, Hormuzan, one of Persia's 7 great chiefs and a veteran of the Battle of Qadisiyah, escalated his raids into Mesopotamia. Said, yes, the same one, under Umar's direction, moved against him in Hormuzan, while Utbah ibn Ghazwan, supported by Nu'man ibn Mukarin, advanced on Ahvaz. They forced Hormuzan into a peace treaty, allowing him to retain Ahvaz as a vassal state to the Muslims while paying tribute. However, Hormuzan violated the treaty, prompting Umar to send Abu Musa Ash'ari, the governor of Busra, to address the breach. After another defeat, Hormuzan agreed to a similar treaty. Yet the peace was short-lived, as Hormuzan received reinforcements commanded by Emperor Yazdegerd III in late 640, the Persian troops regrouped at Tustar, north of Ahvaz. In response, Umar dispatched the governor of Kufa, Ammar ibn Yasir, Abu Musa, and Numan ibn Mukarin to confront the threat, leading to Hormuzan's defeat and subsequent capture. He was sent to Umar in Medina, converted to Islam, and later became an advisor to Umar, although he is suspected of orchestrating Umar's assassination in 644. I mean, he does have a motive. Following the triumph at Tustar, Abu Musa proceeded to seize Susa in January of 641, after a good few months of siege, then moved on to capture Junde Sabur, the last significant military stronghold in the Persian province of Khuzestan, which surrendered after several weeks. After the Khuzestan campaign, Umar preferred a peaceful approach, wary of further entanglement with the still formidable, though weakened, Persian Empire. He famously remarked about desiring a barrier of fire between the Muslims and the Persians, underscoring his reluctance to provoke further Persian hostility. However, the relative peace was short-lived. Yazdegerd, revitalized and based in Merv, directed his commanders to conduct ongoing raids into Mesopotamia. By 642, confident from assembling a large army, Yazdegerd planned on another major offensive to reclaim Mesopotamia. This forced Umar to reassess his frontier policy. Despite his previous reluctance, the mobilization of Nahawand compelled him to engage. He appointed Hudhayfa ibn al-Yaman to lead the Kufa troops, and Abu Musa and Numan ibn Mukarin to join from their respective fronts. Though initially planning to lead the forces from Medina, Umar appointed Mughira ibn Shuwa in his stead, after counsel from his advisors. The consolidated Muslim forces met the Persian army at the Battle of Nahawand in December 642, a decisive engagement that effectively ended the Sasanian resistance. Numan ibn Mukarin actually died at the battle, and Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman took over as the commander. The victory at Nahawand was followed by the rapid conquest of the Hamadan district, marking a significant expansion of Muslim control over former Persian territories. After this decisive battle of Nahawand, Caliph Umar adopted an aggressive policy aimed at full-scale invasion of the remaining Sasanian Empire, recognizing the battle as one of the most decisive in Islamic history. Following this devastating defeat at Nahawand, the last Sassanid emperor, Yazdegerd III, attempted to raise a new army in various parts of Persia, but he had limited success. All the time, Umar was hot on his tail, getting ready to finally capture him. Umar chose to strike immediately after Nahawand to capitalize on the psychological advantage, the demoralization of the Persians. He had to decide whether to attack Fars, Azerbaijan, or Isfahan first. He chose Isfahan, the heart of the Persian Empire, and this would disrupt the coordination among Persian garrisons and isolate Fars and Azerbaijan from Khorasan, the stronghold of Yazdegerd After capturing both Fars and Isfahan, simultaneous attacks would be launched against Azerbaijan and Sistan, the northeastern province, effectively isolating Khorasan. By January 642, preparations were complete. Umar's success depended on how effectively he could coordinate the attacks from Medina, 1,500 kilometers away. Thus he adopted a rather unique command structure, appointing several commanders, each for different missions. Commanders would revert to ordinary soldiers after completing their missions, reinforcing the message that command was based on competence. No jobs for friends, I say. On the eve of the campaign, Umar decided to boost morale by reinstalling the great Khalid ibn al-Walid as field commander. However, he didn't get far. Khalid's death in Emesa changed these plans somewhat. Umar then meticulously planned the campaign, appointing the best commanders and insisting on centralized control. He required commanders to consult with him before making any decisive moves, and detailed reports on their areas to formulate comprehensive battle plans, although they could make tactical decisions based on the battlefield conditions. This approach aimed to maintain tight control over the campaign, while allowing a good bit of flexibility on the ground. Following the death of Khalid, the Caliph appointed Abdullah ibn Uthman as commander for the invasion of Isfahan. Numan ibn Muqarrin led his troops from Nahawand to Hamadan, then 370 kilometers southeast to Isfahan, overcoming a Sasanian army and killing its commander. Reinforced by troops from Busra and Kufa under Abu Musa Ash'ari and Akhnaf ibn Qais, Numan besieged Isfahan, which eventually surrendered. They were just a little bit too hungry. In 651, Muqarrin, Numan's brother, advanced northeast to Ray, Iran. Now that's Nu Ayam ibn Muqarrin, by the way, a different Muqarrin. About 320 kilometers from Hamadan lay the town of Ray, Iran, where they eventually laid a siege. There was fierce resistance raining down from the walls. They held out as long as they could, but eventually Ray also surrendered. Well, Nu Ayam ibn Muqarrin then captured Qom with minimal resistance, securing the Isfahan region's boundaries. Meanwhile, Hamadan and Ray had rebelled, prompting Umar to send Nu Ayam to quell these uprisings. After recapturing Hamadan through a bloody battle and defeating Persian forces outside of Ray, the Persians had no choice but to sue for peace. Nu Ayam ibn Muqarrin then moved north to Tabaristan, south of the Caspian Sea, where the local ruler agreed to a peace treaty. The initial Muslim invasion of Fars began in 638, when al-Ala ibn al-Hadrami, Rashidun governor of Bahrain, after subduing some rebellious Arab tribes, seized an island in the Persian Gulf. Despite orders not to invade Fars, al-Ala and his forces raided the province anyway. Well, his forces were initially repelled, and Umar replaced him with Sa'id ibn Abi Waqqas. Umar then instructed Utbah ibn Ghazwan to reinforce Kulaid, allowing him to retreat to Bahrain while other troops withdrew to Basra. Around 643, Uthman ibn Abi al-As captured Bishapur and secured a peace treaty. In 644, al-Alar resumed attacks on Fars from Bahrain, but was repelled by Sharag, the Persian governor of Fars. Later, Uthman ibn Abi al-As established a base at Tawaj, overcame Shahrag near Ru Shahir, and Hormuz ibn Hayal al-Abdi captured a key fortress. Excuse me, but the names are a little difficult sometimes. Following the ascension of Uthman ibn Affan as caliph, Bishapur declared independence under Sharag's brother, but they were quickly subdued. By 648, Abd Allah ibn al-Ashari had coerced Mahak, the governor of Estakar, into surrendering the city. However, a rebellion broke out in 649, which was quelled by Abd Allah ibn Amir. Estakar offered little resistance in the following year of 650, resulting in its sacking by the Arabs, who then went on to capture Ghor, Kazirun, and Siraf, while Yazdegerd fled to Kerman. Despite these victories, control over Fars remained tenuous, with ongoing local rebellions. In 643, the expedition to Kerman, led by Suhail ibn Adi, marched from Busra. This campaign coincided with those aimed at Sistan and Azerbaijan. Suhail passed through the Shiraz and Persepolis, joining forces with the other armies before engaging the local garrisons of Kerman, eventually subduing them after intense battle. The Arabs had already been raiding Sakistan during Umar's reign, but the first significant invasion occurred around 650. This was led by Abd Allah ibn Amir from Kerman. Under the command of Mujashi ibn Masud, the forces crossed the Dasht-e-Lut desert towards Sakistan, but were repelled with heavy losses, and they were forced to retreat. The following year, Abd Allah ibn Amir dispatched Rabi ibn Ziyad Harithi to Sakistan. Rabi first subdued the border town of Zalik, securing acknowledgement of Rashidun authority from its Deccan, that's a name for their ruler. He then proceeded to capture Karkuya and its renowned fire temple, as recorded in the Tariq-i-Sistan. A fire temple is what the Zoroastrians use to pray. It's one of their rituals. I have a rather old video on Zoroastrianism, which its visuals are a little embarrassing, but if you're interested, perhaps somebody else's video would be better. I don't like my old videos. Well, moving forward, Rabi besieged Zrang, the provincial capital. After intense combat, the governor, Aparviz, surrendered. Horrified by Rabi's gruesome use of dead soldiers' bodies to build himself a little throne to sit on. Yes, that happened. Well, to protect his people, Aparviz agreed to a peace treaty, submitting to a tribute of 1,000,000 dirhams and 1,000 slaves, each one bearing a golden vessel. 18 months later, after after Rabi was summoned to Basra and replaced by Rahman ibn Samura, Sakistan rebelled, overcoming the Muslim garrison at Zrang. Abd al-Rahman promptly crushed this revolt, also pushing into Zabulistan, where he captured Bust and other cities. Concurrently, in 651, the conquest of Iranian Azerbaijan commenced. Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman led the attack, marching from Ray to Zanjan, overcoming the Persians who bravely met him in battle. After seizing Zanjan, Hudayfa captured Ardabil and then advanced along the Caspian Sea's western coast to Bab al-Abwab, which he took by force. Upon being recalled by Uthman, Hudayfa was replaced by Bukayr ibn Abdullah and Utbah ibn Farkad, tasked with a dual assault on Azerbaijan. Bukayr, moving northward, faced a substantial Persian force led by Isfandiar, the son of Farrukhzad. After defeating Isfandiar, who then surrendered his estates and influence to encourage submission to Muslim rule, Bukayr continued his campaign. Meanwhile, Utbah ibn Farkad clashed with and defeated Bahram, Isfandiar's brother, who also sought peace. Consequently, Azerbaijan capitulated, agreeing to pay the stipulated jizya to the caliphate. Remember, jizya, the tax you had to pay for not being Muslim. Suhail ibn Adi's campaign in Kerman coincided with the efforts in Sistan and Azerbaijan. Marching through Shiraz and Persepolis, Suhail eventually subdued Kerman after a significant battle. The Arabs also began raiding Sakistan around 643, with major invasions occurring over the next several years, culminating in the submission of the region after the siege of the capital Zrang. The strategic planning by Caliph Umar involves simultaneous attacks across the northeast and west of the Persian Empire, targeting Khorasan and Armenia respectively. The conquest of Khorasan was especially pivotal, with Akhnaf ibn Qais leading the charge from Kufa through Ray and Nishapur, capturing Herat and eventually Merv without resistance. The conquest faced challenges including rebellions and the assassination of Caliph Umar by a Persian slave in 644, which of course didn't do many favors for the Arab-Persian tensions. His successor, Uthman ibn Affan, dealt with the ongoing rebellions across the former Sasanian territories, ultimately expanding Muslim rule into Transoxiana, Baluchistan, and the Caucasus, marking the fullest extent of the Muslim Eastern expansion for decades. Well, of course, we could go on and on about the Muslim expansions, and I believe I've done another video on the Muslim conquest of the Levant. Perhaps you're interested in that. Well, I assume you are if you've made it this far. I'd like to thank my top-tier patrons, Jeffrey, JC, and Stark Factory. If you would like to support the channel, well, you know what to do. Links are in the description. But, as always, the best way to support the channel is just by watching the channel. And if you're listening to this right now, you've certainly fulfilled that goal. Thank you very much. I will see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Have a good night, everyone. Good night.